Hey everyone, it's Deke. The War Within is about to launch here in just over an hour. I thought I would just quickly go over what my build's going to look like for my Prot Warrior as I'm leveling up, as I'm playing through the expansion and getting into delves, especially the high-end delves, and then on to mythics and raids. So I've been playing Prot Warrior since vanilla. I know things have changed drastically from expansion to expansion, but I've pretty much played in every expansion. I haven't done super high end rating or anything like since way back in Burning Crusade is really when I rated the most hardcore probably. But I would say that I'm pretty good on my class and I kind of understand how to play tank very well and also just how to use tank in every scenario in the game. I do play Arms and Fury occasionally, but I mostly like to play tank, even though it's not necessarily the most single target damage leveling and stuff like that. I do find that it's just very fun. I just like the gameplay. So anyway, I thought I would go over the talents, and I want to start with looking at the Mountain Thane tree because the new hero talents, they kind of dictate some of the talents that you're going to take in your spec tree, because there's certain talents, for instance, like Crashing Thunder, like you have to be playing Thunderclap for this even to work, right? So, and there's some other things too. For instance, you have a choice here in the middle where if you take Storm Bolts, you can make your Storm Bolt, which you get out of your actual warrior tree, you can make it hit 3 targets, which is kind of like a second shockwave, which is pretty cool. Or you can take Storm Shield, which has some bonuses on your Intervene. So you kind of are making a decision between, do you want to play Intervene or do you want to play Storm Bolts? Typically, I do play Intervene, but because of the delve system and all of this kind of like harder solo content, I'm probably going to be playing the kind of more of a Stormbolt focus build where I'm taking as many stuns and interrupts and things like that as I can so that I can lock down targets that are hard to defeat and keep them from killing me in some of the harder content. So at any rate, let's look through the tree and we'll come back to the Mountain Thane hero talent here in a minute. But basically, we're going to take all the stuff that makes sense, speed and leech and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of know what you're going to take. So instead of going over each individual talent here in the trees, I'm going to just kind of go over the talents that I'm probably going to pass on, which makes more sense because you're going to get most of this stuff. And then you're going to have to make some tough choices at the end. And then there's a few choices you make along the way of things that you're not going to be playing with, basically. So in this scenario, like I said, you're kind of either going to go the Intervene route or Stormbolt. Now you can get both of these, but you can't augment both of these at the same time with the hero talent tree. So what I'm going to be doing is playing Stormbolt and leaving the point out of Intervene so that I can make sure I get into some of my stronger talents, cap talents at the end. So obviously we're going to take Thunderclap, the Mountain Thane hero talent, which is the spec that I'm going to be playing, is all based around Thunderclap. So a lot of the things that we're going to be doing are going to be based around Thunderclap and how to, have the most uptime on it and stuff like that. So let's see here. We know we want Bounding Stride. We're going to take Shockwave. And if you're going to take Shockwave, you should upgrade Shockwave so that when you hit 3 or more targets, your cooldown is reduced. So we definitely want that. We're basically going to pass on the fear stuff here. You can, get fear. I just don't find this all that necessary. Maybe in PvP, this is where you'd want it. But I think for most of what I'm going to be doing, even though I am going to level up in war mode and I will be doing PvP, especially world PvP is probably one of my favorite things to do in the game. The best talent that a warrior has, in my opinion, is Spell Reflect. I think that this talent is unrivaled. It can just do so much for you in PvP and PvE scenarios. And if you've seen any of my recent delve content that I've put up, this spell is reflecting fireballs onto PvE mobs for 4 million damage. So yeah, it's pretty good. Let's see here. Most of this stuff we want. I don't need Wrecking Throw or Shattering Throw. This again is more of a PvP talent. There may be a specific scenario where you want this for a certain fight if there's some kind of shield you can break with it, but mostly a PvP talent. Here I have been taking Barbaric Training, which is making Revenge deal more damage. And I tend to like that. Now, sidearm could be good, but I think barbaric training is probably the way I would go. Obviously, we want double time for a second charge. We don't need we don't need more rage necessarily. I don't think there's really any mechanics that say if you have this much rage, then something happens, right? I mean, it could buff your execute, but we're not really focusing on execute as a prot warrior. You will use it occasionally in your rotation, but we're not going to focus on it. So I think max rage is not really something we need to look into. We definitely want this. Thunderclap and Revenge, hitting 3 or more enemies, hits an additional time. However, I think because of delve content and my experience in the high-end delve content, you're really going to want to be pulling single mobs, the elites especially, and you're going to want to kick every single spell that you possibly can. You basically have to have a rotation where it's like, you mitigate something, you kick something, you reflect something, you mitigate, and you cycle that kind of through because of how difficult the mobs are. So I think for that reason, concussive blows is going to end up being very good because it's going to reduce your cooldown of your kick, and it's also going to increase your damage whenever you successfully interrupt a kick. So basically on cooldown, you're going to be getting, this 5% increased damage buff. So I think that's actually better in the scenario that I'm working with here. We definitely don't need Piercing Howl. We don't need Berserker Shout. So these are things that we're going to pass on. We're going to pass on this Bitter Immunity. And we definitely want Haste. We definitely want the Leech. We need the Stamina. We want the Armor and the Strength. And that leaves us with 3 talents. So the main way that I like to play is Avatar plus Unstoppable Force. Avatar increases the damage of Thunderclap and Shockwave by 50% and reduces the cooldown of Thunderclap by 50%. So as you can see, this build's going to be all about Thunderclap. It looks like I have 1 point here. Let me see. Did I miss any of the nodes that take 2 talents? Oh, I missed this node here. Crackling Thunder's radius is increased by 50% and it reduces movement speed. So we definitely want that. Anything to buff Thunderclap is what we want. This is a great skill in big raid parties and stuff, and maybe Mythic Plus. If I feel like I need to take this for a certain group play, I'll swap something out for it. But for now, this is the build for the warrior side of things. When we get into protection over here, we'll do the same thing. I will make a note that I've been playing Devastator. I never used to play it. I always like to have Devastate be a button that I could spam, but I've gotten maybe a little bit trying to clean up my action bars and how many skills are on there. So I like playing Devastator just so it takes away one skill that I have to be pushing. And I actually have really liked doing that. We're going to get Last Stand. Yes, we want this. Let's see here. We're going to take all of these. This is a new talent here that makes your defense stance just give you an extra 6% magic reduction, which is awesome. So I don't really ever use Challenging Shout, but you kind of have to take it to get down into this tree. And we definitely want Thunderlord. This is one of the main skills that's going to play with our Mountain Thane theme. Increases the radius of Demoralizing Shout by 5 yards. Each enemy hit by Thunderclap reduces the remaining cooldown on Demoralizing Shout by 1.5 seconds up to 4.5 seconds. So this is something that's going to be very active with what we're doing in this build. We want Revenge and Thunderclap dealing more damage. Here is a talent that will swap frequently, I think, because when I'm in group play, I'm going to want to do Into the Fray, where I'm basically gaining 8% haste at all times. But when I'm in solo play, I'll probably end up playing Heavy Repercussions to get more rage and more shield block. Having said that, maybe Into the Fray triggers off of Bran and Bran's pets in Delves. So if that's the case, you could maybe get up to the 8% or at least 6% on Into the Fray. So this is a talent that, I'll be watching as I'm playing. For now, I'm going to take Heavy Repercussions, thinking of solo play. Shield Wall, obviously. We don't need these talents. We don't need to extend shield block. You already have 2 charges. You can just recast it. We want Shield Slam, generating more rage and reducing the cooldown on Shield Wall. Yes, we don't need the double charge of Shield Wall. Every 10 rage you spend reduces the remaining cooldown on Avatar and Shield Wall. We definitely want this because the more we can keep Avatar up, the more we can be doing more damage with our Thunderclap and our Shockwave and reducing the cooldown on Thunderclap. So this is a big talent for the build. Over here, you could go either way with the Deep Wounds healing or 10% getting added to your Ignore Pain. I'm just going to click the Deep Wounds for now. This is one that I may experiment with to see which one I think is better. Blocking spells could be very strong. I just hate the 1.5 minute cooldown on this. So I'm going to take Tough as Nails here. Don't really need Last Stand cooldown. Let's see here. We need a couple talents. We want Shield Slam, deals increased damage. Yes, we want this. I need to take one more talent here to get down. So we want Devastates, increased damage and rage. We want both these points to get block and block value. We want Strength and Armor and Crit Strike. Then we're going to be playing Shield Charge. This skill is insane. It hits like a truck. You're super buffing it with these talents down here. And it's also an interrupt and a stun. So this gives us our third interrupt. We have Shockwave, we have Stormbolt, and we have Shield Charge. So we have 3 ways to stun enemies, 1 way to interrupt, and we have Spell Reflect. So we have a lot of tools to deal with what our enemies are throwing at us. So we will be missing out on this kind of cheat death talent, but that's okay. We want to get Stamina and Armor and Haste here. We want to get Booming Voice, which again is going to be a big part of our theme. Demoralizing Shout also generates 30 rage and increases damage you deal to affected targets by 20%. Kind of what we're trying to do here is we're trying to have Demoralizing Shout up as much as possible so that we're always getting a 20% damage buff. So this is a huge talent for the build. I also like to take Indomitable, so we'll be taking that. And then I have 1 point left here that, let me see where I typically would put this. We don't need Ravager. I know I'm missing something. What is it that I missed? I missed something important. Not more Rage. Oh, this is very important. I missed Rend. So when you have Rend, your Thunderclap will apply Rend to all the targets it hits. So you have to have Rend to really set this build off. Okay, that's what protection looks like. Now we're going to go into the Mountain Thane tree here. And basically you're going to have all these talents. So the only thing that you really need to look at is you need to look at your choice talents. Okay, so we have this choice talent here in the center. We've already talked about this one. We're going to take Stormbolt so that Stormbolt hits 2 additional targets. It does increase the cooldown a little bit, but that's okay because having an extra stun is very, very good. Here, there's again a choice that I think could go either way. Getting 5% increased stam and some bonus health on your Victory Rush, which you will be using quite a lot in these high-end delves, or just reducing flat damage with your Thunder Blasts is good as well. So this is one that I'll have to keep an eye on, but for now I'm just going to take the flat damage reduction. Again, here you have a choice of activating Demoralizing Shout grants a charge of Thunder Blast, or Thunder Blast calls down a Lightning Strike. Again, some testing probably needs to be done to see what kind of damage this Lightning Strike does, but because we're playing such a Thunderclap, Demoralizing Shout heavy theme, we're going to take the Snap Induction here. Another talent we have is your attacks trigger Lightning Strikes 30% more often, or Lightning Strikes generate 5 rage, and Revenge and Execute deal increased damage, which I think just that flat damage is very powerful. So no choice here, and then we take our Capstone, Avatar of the Storm. And basically what this is doing is kind of every other Thunderclap turns into a Thunder Blast, basically. So casting, let me see, read this here. Casting Avatar grants you 2 charges of Thunder Blast and resets the cooldown of Thunderclap. While Avatar is not active, Lightning Strikes have a 10% chance to grant you Avatar for 4 seconds. And then Thunder Blast says your next Thunderclap becomes a Thunder Blast that deals Storm Strike damage. So it's just like a super Thunderclap. So this is pretty cool. I really like the Mountain Thane theme, and it's the one that I've gravitated towards the most and have been playing, and it's definitely what I'll be starting with. And we'll see as things progress and if they make any changes to the hero specs, you know, what may come of that. But for now, I think Mountain Thane is just the go-to for Prot Warrior. And I think if you do this Avatar Thunderclap Demo Shout kind of build with all of these stuns, I think you're going to do really well in Mythic Plus with this. I think it's going to be, you know, pretty necessary for the high-end solo delve content. And I think there's probably some talents that you can swap out here when you're in raids. I don't think you need all the stuns. You're basically just doing boss fights that aren't going to need many stuns unless there's like ads and stuff that need to be dealt with stun-wise. So I think there's things I would look at for the raids, but I think you could get away with running this in raids as well. It'd be no problem. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing for my PvE play. And, you know, starting here in the next hour or so, this is kind of what my build's going to look like. So if you're interested in that, then there you go. And I will try to put, once the game is live, maybe I'll put a link to this that you can import into your setup, and that way you don't have to build this out yourself. You can just import it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.